to do a little KPM Restoration Rapid reaction here on Onorato Company. It's Chris Onorato. It's Ashley Miller. A Monday morning coming off a busy weekend in sports, baseball to get to the Open Championship, a historic performance and comeback from Cameron Smith, and a surprise last night. I had to text you as soon as I saw it at home. You were at work. Kumar Rocker, number 3 overall to the Texas Rangers. We've got it all coming up here on the Onorato Company Rapid Reaction, brought to you by KPM Restoration.
This Onorato Company Rapid Reaction is presented by KPM Restoration.
All right, Ash, you ran it on the news last night. Kumar Rocker, you threw his stats out there. We ran it back this morning for people at home. From 10th last year to the Mets to 3rd this year to the Rangers. Wow.
Yeah, I was surprised, but my favorite part of the whole thing was, did you listen back to the ESPN broadcast?
Yeah.
I mean, all of the analysts on set were like, whoa, oh my God, whoa, like legitimately surprised and voiced that surprise on the broadcast, which I was kind of surprised by. But yeah, it's funny because this is a guy who he only made 5 starts for the ValleyCats, but clearly did enough to convince the Texas Rangers that he's A-okay. And, you know, people around the ValleyCats were talking like, hey, he's going to go high first round. And I just kind of thought, yeah, is he? My guess was like, I was thinking a lot more like late first round, maybe even early second round. But at the end of the day, when they're pulling names off of here that I'm like, who's this kid? He looks like he's 12. Who's this kid? He looks like he's 16. He is. This is a guy who's a grown man who pitched at Vanderbilt already and who now has pitched an independent ball. Like, he's more ready to go than anyone else in this draft as long as he's healthy, and they're obviously convinced that he's healthy.
Look, the way he was pumping it in 96 to 98 consistently over those 5 starts, 20 total innings, he showed you that, okay, whatever concern was there last year from the Mets, and it wasn't just the Mets. There were going to be other teams that had medical concerns. I don't think they would have blown up the deal the way the Mets did after drafting him. But clearly, you're right. He did enough in those 5 starts to show I'm healthy. The shoulder surgery helped because at the end of his time in Vanderbilt, he was getting knocked around pretty good. Mississippi State beat him up in that final game in the College World Series because he didn't have the same velocity. And everybody talked about a tired arm. Was he used too much at Vanderbilt? And now you get Rocker and his former college teammate, Jack Leiter, in Texas together, an organization, a team, a franchise that desperately needs starting pitching. They have invested a lot in the way of offense, Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. Now they need pitching. You said it. He's a grown man at 22 years old. If we see Kumar Rocker in September, I won't be surprised.
No, not at all. And that's the thing. He is essentially ready to go. He will have to work up. Listen, he wasn't throwing a whole lot of pitches. I think he maxed out at maybe close to 60 with the ValleyCats. So that's going to be something he works up to. But he will be one of the fastest to the majors of any name you've heard called in this draft. Again, because a lot of these kids are coming out of high school, number one, but the others are coming out of college. And this is a guy who you don't now want to waste time because he is 22, and there are guys being drafted who are 18 or 17. So you don't want to waste those years. If he's ready to go, I think you see him early and often in his major league career with the Texas Rangers. And they, like you said, they could use him and Leiter.
And if you want to feel old, the son of Matt Holliday went number 1 overall, and the son of Andrew Jones went number 2 overall. It's the first time in baseball history that former major leaguers' sons have gone 1-2. Holliday joins Ken Griffey Jr. as only the second son of a former major leaguer to go number 1 overall. So if you want to feel old, Matt Holliday and Andrew Jones, who feel like contemporary baseball players, their sons are now going to major league organizations. Crazy.
Yeah, and Carl Crawford's kid got drafted later on in the first round. And it's funny because, like, Matt Holliday does not, like, I don't necessarily put those two together. They don't look exactly alike. Obviously, his kid looks like a child who just got drafted, which is crazy. Carl Crawford's kid looks, sounds, hits, fields just like his dad. which is so funny because even Carl Ravitch on who was like, "Hey, he talks like dad too." I'm like, "Well, yeah, the mannerisms, you get all that from your family."
Yeah. So day 2 of the draft is today, Monday. Is Luke Gold the first Capital Region guy off the board? I know we're like kind of narrowing it down to 3 who we think for sure will be drafted by the end of tomorrow anyway. Maybe not today, but by the end of tomorrow. Is Gold the first guy off the board, do you think?
I don't know. It always feels like pitching is the way to go. So my thought is maybe a guy like Mike Kennedy, but I think that's only if you're convinced that he's not going to go to LSU. This is the kind of the war that teams wage is like, okay, do we spend a high-ish draft pick if the kid is not going to come to us and is instead going to go to college? I think those guys maybe get drafted later on. But Kennedy's a big arm who maybe you convince him not to go to school and to go to the minors if you draft him today. I think if you draft him tomorrow, then that conversation changes. But you have a kid like Gavin Van Kempen from Maple Hill, whose name's been thrown around. We just got an email. Dale Stanovich from Rutgers is expected to hear his name at some point, whether it's today or tomorrow. He's an Amsterdam guy. So, yeah, we could hear a handful of Capital Region guys' names called today or tomorrow, and hopefully we'll catch up with those guys.
Yeah, pretty crazy. So let me just ask that Kennedy's a pitcher?
Yeah.
I mean,
oh, you mean as in terms of what he's going to be?
How's a major league team going to view him? That's where I'm kind of curious on him. For as talented as he is, I wonder how major league teams are viewing him as a prospect. Are they saying, yes, you're a pitcher, or no, we think you're an infielder?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen him. That's the thing. Like, I haven't seen him play a lot of infield. I don't know that teams are scouting him as an infielder.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to major league scouts, so I don't really know how that works. But I think you got to let the kid pitch until he proves he can't do it at the next level. And that's why, I mean, maybe somebody just lets him go to college and prove that he can pitch at LSU against some of the best college players in the country, and then comes back to him later on. All these guys get drafted generally because there are so many players drafted in this MLB baseball draft. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to take the money and go, or they're going to say, you know what, I'll do this again in 3 years, and we can see what happens then.
Right, and teams play the game of not
Slot.
spending a lot of their slot money where it's designated in the first round, so they can maybe convince a guy like Mike Kennedy in the 5th or 6th round to, hey, don't go to LSU, come to us. We're going to pay you over slot. There's a lot of manipulation that happens in the way of that to try to keep kids from going to college, as that sounds.
I was going to say, that doesn't sound great, but
yeah. But that's what they're trying to do. All right, we're at the All-Star break. We've got the Home Run Derby tonight. Some big names in it.
Yeah.
Some of the leading home run hitters in all baseball. So it's not just guys who are not all-stars. We've got some real names. So I'm looking forward to that, although I won't see most of it.
I was going to say, you're not going to see it.
But this is where the Yankees and Mets sit, both holding down first-place spots in the AL and NL Easts. Yanks have 64 wins at the break. It's not a perfect 81 games, obviously, that they played. Yankees will win that division. It's a 13-game lead over Tampa Bay. The Mets are a little bit more of an interesting spot, up 2.5 on an Atlanta team that has charged hard here in the last month and a half. But otherwise, I feel really good about both of these teams, honestly, winning their divisions. Scherzer's now back. DeGrom will be back at some point in the second half. I've said a number of times on the show, I don't think he lasts until the end of the year, but I think he's around enough to help you win some. Scherzer's the guy that changes the game for the Mets in this rotation. And I think with an owner like Steve Cohen, if he's in first place, by the end of the month, he's going to get aggressive to make some trades. He's going to upgrade his roster. The guy wants to win. He's a Mets fan. He's got all the money in the world. I would feel much better if I'm a Mets fan about where my team is going into the trade deadline in a couple of weeks, knowing my owner is invested.
What are they trading for?
I don't know yet. Probably middle relief, as unsexy as that is. Somebody to get the ball to Edwin Diaz. Middle relief for sure. And then they could use I wouldn't hate to see them get a little left-handed power bat. Feels like a lot of it comes from the right side for them. So a left-handed bat, and can you get Schwarber from Philadelphia?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty big time if you can get it from a division rival. And I think middle relief.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. I'm not saying that they won't make a move. I don't know. Like, there's no absolute glaring needs on that team. But I think just from a standpoint of ownership saying, like, we're in it to win it, essentially, that's when you know a team is in it, is when they go out and make a move and a statement saying, like, no, we're not happy with where we are. We're going to try to get better and just go out and take this thing.
Oh, yeah. And it shouldn't be just about trying to win the division for the Mets. It should be about trying to win a World Series at this point. Juan Soto turns down 15 years, $440 million from the Washington Nationals. That's below $30 million a year, people. There's no way he was going to sign that contract. Bad on the Nationals to think that he would. You said it's almost insulting. Yeah. They should have offered him 10 for $380 or $420 and said, look, you're 23 years old. You're going to get another contract. Yeah, but Mike Trout's getting 42.
Yeah, no, I know.
Juan Soto is 10 years younger, and he's just as good now.
So that's working out for the Angels.
I mean, I would have offered that to Soto. Anyway, the Nationals say they're going to listen to some offers for Juan Soto. Do you think he is traded before the deadline?
I mean, the problem with this situation is you are going to have to trade the farm for this kid. Yeah. So what team that is a Juan Soto? Listen, everybody wants Juan Soto. He's a game changer because he can make a pretty good team great, but he can't make a below average team good enough to get in the playoffs. He's on a below average team, and he's not good enough to get that team into the playoffs. So for me, I just think if you're a good team, you're literally going to have to trade away your future to get this guy. So you better be like ready to make the step and not need your farm system for the next 5 years. Like putting him on your team needs to push you deep into the postseason. So how many of those teams are there out there that are ready to trade the farm in order to get him to win a World Series?
The Yankees offer would start with Jason Dominguez, right?
Volpe. Yeah, I mean, I know they've some of these names have been untouchable.
Wouldn't you do it if you're the Yankees?
Yeah, I would, only because the Yankees are not old as currently constructed. Like, the Yankees are young enough that they would be okay for the next 5+ years, and that's all you would want is Soto to get you through the next 5 years. If you win 2, that would be great. But now you're trading away the future, the rest of the future, to get the future in Juan Soto.
He's 23.
I know. And you're going to spend $440 million on a guy. You've got $200 million invested in this guy, $200 million invested in this guy. Aaron Judge wants $200 million. Like, at some point, you run out of money.
Well, the trade would be at the expense of keeping Judge. You wouldn't keep Judge. You would give the contract to Soto, not Judge, which I would rather do. I'm not a Yankees fan, so I don't have the emotional attachment to Aaron Judge, and I understand that Yankees fans would say, no, well, you have to keep Judge. He's the face of the franchise. He should be a captain one day, all this stuff. I get it. I'd go for Soto, but I'm probably in the minority there.
Take Aaron Judge's fielding capabilities. I mean, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah. This was a heck of a show Cameron Smith put on, especially on the back nine. He shot 30 on the back nine. That is a record low for a final round at any major championship. 30. He had 6 straight birdies on the back nine. It ends up being a 64 on Sunday to win the 150th Open Championship. What a showing by the Aussie.
I think it was 5, right?
5 straight birdies.
Yeah, 5. Unbelievable stuff. Listen, as much as you want to say, like, Rory is disappointed, Rory didn't play bad golf. He played good golf. He didn't play great golf. Cam Smith played great golf. There's a difference. Cam Smith went out and took that championship away from Rory. Rory didn't lose it. His putter let him down a couple times, but he played -2 golf for the round. Like that, you should, with a 2-shot lead, if you play -2 golf, you think, all right, with a 4-shot lead going in, you think you're going to win that.
Right.
You think you're going to win it. So that's not on Rory. It's on Cam Smith going out and taking what he wanted, and good for that guy.
He made some clutch putts too,
Yeah.
not just, in the stretch of 5 straight.
Yeah.
He made a par putt on 17
Yes.
that really saved his bacon because Cameron Young had just eagled, and Smith needed the par putt to keep the 1-shot lead over his playing partner, 2-shot lead over McIlroy. So aside from the run of birdies, that par on 17, I was watching at home. I was sweating it out. You know why?
Yeah.
And that par putt was huge on 17. And then of course he birdies 18. So
I mean, I think that was like a 15-foot putt. It wasn't like a short putt. It was a longish putt. I would call it a very long putt.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm not going to get into like, is he the next star? Is he going to win, 4 of the next 8 majors? We were talking yesterday about McIlroy, and he hasn't won it in 8 years. Spieth hasn't won. These guys won at a very young age, the way Smith is, and haven't since. This is not easy to do. So maybe his time is now, and we shouldn't be thinking about the next 5 years. Maybe we should be worried about the next year for Cameron Smith. How many can he get now in the next year or 2?
Yeah, and listen, golf has changed without a guy like Tiger, who just totally dominates the sport and outdrives everyone, but also outputts everyone. Like, there are people like Rory who have a great driver, but there isn't anyone who has the entire complete package of a game that just allows them to totally put people away tournament after tournament. That's not how golf works anymore. There are enough guys who can chip well enough or putt well enough or drive well enough to keep them in any given tournament. So I think you're going to continue to see those new names kind of cycle through with the old names. So you get a guy like Colin Morikawa, but then you get a guy like Dustin Johnson who pops back up. You know what I mean? So you're going to get guys who have won majors before, or Brooks Koepka or Bryson DeChambeau. And then you're going to get those new guys who kind of get sprinkled in. I think that's just how golf is going to work for the foreseeable future, to be honest with you. There's so much talent, and it's so spread out that I wouldn't be surprised if it's a new name kind of cycling through every major championship.
All right, that is the KPM Restoration Rapid Reaction here on a Monday morning on Onorato Company. A perfect time to do it. Mondays to react to the busy weekend in sports that it was. We'll continue to keep our eyes on the local names in the Major League Baseball draft today and tomorrow. Stay tuned to News Channel 13 for all of that, as Roger and Ash will bring it to you the next couple of days. All right, Ash, get a little more rest.
Yeah, I'll see you in a little bit.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, live from Novice Clothing Company, 10 a.m., early edition of Onorato Company this week. See